Buffalo Bills have traded the 32nd pick to the Carolina Panthers. With the 32nd pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Xavier Legette, wide receiver, South Carolina.
Carolina Panthers got their guy, Xavier Legette. With the first round ending, a lot of Panther fans thought that we were going to bed, getting ready to see the bid board, see with all the prospects falling, what we're going to do. No, we traded with the Buffalo Bills and we got our guy, Xavier Legette. If you've been following the Panthers on social media, the articles coming out is Xavier Legette saying, hey, Carolina's top. You know, I had about 4 or 5 visits with him. He was not lying. We got our guy to go along with Adam Thielen, to go along with newly acquired Deontay Johnson. You still do have second-year player in Jonathan Mingo. We do have ISM. Really, this was kind of sort of the missing piece that the coaching staff thought that we needed Xavier Legette. They traded up for him for a reason. He still does have a couple of things he needs to work on going into his rookie year, going into Carolina. Yes, there is a lot of pressure on the young man coming from Mullins, South Carolina, to represent the Carolinas, where he wanted to play for the home state team, hometown team in the Carolina Panthers. But to go along with an Adam Thielen, to go along with a Johnson, to go along with an ISM, to actually have the maturity and have the leadership in that room, I'm definitely loving the addition of Xavier Legette. One thing that when you see right here, he has a sneaky burst gear, propels, vertical separation, and run after catch speed, meaning that he can take a screen all the way to the house. I do know we did have Troy Franklin there. You had a Keon Coleman. A lot of people wanted different wide receivers, but again, Carolina was headstrong on Xavier Legette. But the thing that I do have a worry about is his below average quickness getting in and out of his breaks. One thing that he can work on is with a separation guy that we call Deontay Johnson. He can work on his getting off speed or getting out of breaks. That's one reason why Deontay Johnson, regardless of his drops, he's still well respected around the league in getting into in and out of his breaks. I love the acquisition. I love how Carolina was headstrong on their guy. They went to go get their guy. They didn't want another team to go get him. So right now, leading now, trading up to round 1, pick number 32, I'll go ahead and give the Carolina Panthers a solid B- with Xavier Legette. Next up, we got the running back out of Texas, Jonathan Brooks, standing at 6 foot, 216 pounds, a trade up. We know how many trades or what Scott Fitterer did. Dan Morgan went to go get another guy that they were high on. Yes, you do have Chuba Hubbard. Yes, you do have the underperforming Miles Sanders. Yes, you have Blackshear. But with this offense and with this team, Dave Canales is not connected to any running back. And what I like is we went to go get Jonathan Brooks, who had 187 rushing attempts, 1,139 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Once he puts his foot in the ground and he sees clear skies and clear green, he's going to take it to the house. He's another player that can take a screen or be a one play to the crib type player for this offense. I understand that people are wondering, why did we trade up? Why did we get a running back so quickly? You have to look at the room. Outside of Jonathan Brooks being added to the running back room, Chuba Hubbard's on a 1-year deal. Miles Sanders underperformed. Is he going to show back up and be the Miles Sanders that he was with the Philadelphia Eagles? I do feel that he's kind of sort of not what we thought he was based off the offensive line that he played with when he was at the Eagles. But back to Jonathan Brooks, what I love is has great hands, great post, catch, wiggle, creates added value for the offense. Again, once he puts that foot in the ground, he can give you a move and take it all the way to the crib if you look at the highlights that we put right here. Then also the thing that I think a lot of people are worried about is the ACL. How will he come back off the ACL that he tore in November? For me, I think you have to do your homework. And for them to go take a quarterback that early in the second round with the 46th pick, they had to do their own medical research. Yes, he did get the surgery out here in Dallas with the Dallas Cowboys surgeons, but I do know a lot of people were very high on Jonathan Brooks. So I think he, like Dave Canales said, he's going to bring competition into that room. Do I think he's going to get some quality playing time? Yes, I do. I do think we'll still have 3 running backs on this roster that will get quality depth and quality quality run throughout a game, but you don't go get a player like Jonathan Brooks and have him sitting on the bench, or he's sitting behind a Chuba Hubbard and a Miles Sanders. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him in training camp. I did read that he will be medically cleared July 1st. He has been doing a lot of cutting and working out. So with the pick, Jonathan Brooks, that's another solid B, closer to a B plus, because you look at the running back, you look at what he brings. He was the number one running back on the board. Carolina did what they had to do, go get their guy, just like they wanted Xavier Legette. So starting out with the draft, Dan Morgan definitely has hit it out the park. You get two new offensive pieces to go along with the pieces that you brought in going into 2024 season. Adding another weapon for Bryce Young, which he did not have weapons going into his rookie year. So with us going ahead and having a run on two offensive prospects and a wide receiver and running back, with the round 3 pick in pick 72, we got Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky, a bulldog. One thing that I love, Dan Morgan knows how to scout for a particular linebacker. A couple of outlets and sources had him as a round 3 linebacker. So he went in the right round. I think a lot of people are just headstrong on Peyton Wilson with him being a North Carolina product. He looked up to Luke Kuechly, had his game after Luke Kuechly, but Trevin Wallace had a top 30 visit with the Carolina Panthers right before the deadline to end top 30 visits. And going on the season, standing at 6'1", 237 pounds, 80 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and had an interception and forced fumble apiece on his last year with Kentucky. He is exactly what you want in a linebacker, not afraid, ready, like you said, he wants to go hurt somebody. And when you have a linebacker that says he wants to go hurt somebody, that's the type of linebacker that you need. We do have, Josie Jewell. You do have Shaq Thompson. I think Shaq is kind of towards the back end of his career, and a great person outside of the production lately. Shaq is still a good leader. And so for Wallace to come in, learn behind Shaq, possibly come in a rotational piece in the linebacker group, I love what we did with this piece. I wanted Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper went earlier, and I think we probably had Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson, and then you had Wallace sitting there for our board for linebackers. So we went and got our guy. With this one, I'll give it a C+. Reason why I give it a C+, I really wanted Edgerrin Cooper, but Wallace just needs probably a year or maybe a second year to really get developed into the NFL, learn how to actually be a middle linebacker. And like one of his weaknesses right here says play recognition and football instincts are lacking. With you being a middle linebacker, you have to be that communicator. You cannot be lacking or don't have the IQ to be the middle linebacker or be the leader of the front 7 and the back 7. We need you to be that leader. And I think with him learning underneath Evero, learning underneath Shaq Thompson, he should be able to do it. But what I like is hands and very sticky when it comes to the chance to take the ball away, meaning that he has a knack for the ball. So again, I'm not mad at the pick. I did have my own personal preference with Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M, but we got our linebacker for the future, and I definitely think it's a great addition to go in that linebacker room. With the 4th round pick 101, a pick that I'm starting to love more and more, is Ja'Tavion Sanders out of Texas. Standing at 6'4", 245 pounds. I knew we were, as fans, we wanted Ben Sinnott, but the more and more that I look at Sanders, the more and more that I love that he's that athletic type tight end. You have the Travis Kelce's. He said he likes George Kittle. We have people comparing him to Darren Waller. You have David Njoku out of Cleveland Browns. I love that we have a athletic tight end. Outside of Greg Olsen, we have not had a tight end come in and be that protective blanket, be a tight end that can go up the seam and help their quarterback. I absolutely love this pick. I think for the value of this pick, outside of Xavier Legette, Brooks, and Wallace, I think this is our A pick so far going throughout the draft. For the value where he fell at and to actually get him at the 4th round, wonderful. And just some of his plus and minus: frames out of defenders and watches with strong hands with contested catches. That's one thing that came out before his combine. He was great with contested catches. And for his position group, He had the highest grade out of PFF for contested catches for tight ends in Division I football last year. One thing that he is going to have to work on is blocking. Yes, I understand that he can catch, but we also need you to block and protect your quarterback whenever you have a blocking assignment. Yes, we still do have Ian Thomas. Yes, you have Tommy Tremble, and yes, you have Sullivan. But we're not going to keep 4 tight ends on this roster right now. I think Tommy Tremble, they have been headstrong on Tommy Tremble, but I also do think Ja'Tavion Sanders can possibly compete with Ian Thomas and Tremble for that number 1 tight end spot. It's an uphill battle with you having 2 tight ends that already have NFL experience, but with the size and the traits that he has, I think Sanders can definitely be our tight end of the future. I don't know if that means Ian Thomas can be out of a job, but I do think we'll possibly keep 3 tight ends, have Tommy Tremble and Sanders be 1 and 2, and then Ian Thomas, which he lacks in catching. He does do quite well in blocking, but I love this acquisition of Ja'Tavion Sanders out of Texas. We've got a reunion of the running back out of Texas and the tight end. Basically, they came in as freshmen, best friends. Now they're playing on the same organization in the Carolina Panthers. So I love the tight end that we got for a future of the offense, and I think Dan Morgan could have not went wrong with this pick right here. Next up is our guy, Shi Smith-Wade out of Washington State. Was drafted in round 5, pick 157. One thing for me, I was thinking you had TJ Tampa out there. You had Cam Hart. You had Nehemiah Pritchett that got drafted in that round as well. For me, I knew we needed a corner, and I'm actually glad that we're still trying to sign Stephon Gilmore. Hopefully, by this video, we do have Stephon Gilmore back in the Carolinas. But I do understand why we needed a corner. He does stand at 5'10", 184 pounds. The reason why I think we got Chau is because of the performance that he put in at the Senior Bowl. Going against some of these wide receivers, going in one-on-ones, he had a good showing. Actually, during the Senior Bowl, he had 2 interceptions. Throughout the season, he didn't have any interceptions. He did have 6 PBUs. He does have a knack to get his hands on the ball, but what I like for PBUs to be turned into interceptions. I think they do have him right now. The NFL and analysts have him as a nickel corner, but I do think he can play outside corner. But with Troy Hill being on a 1-year deal, this can be our nickel corner for the future. I do think we still do need corner help. We did draft or bring in a couple people for undrafted free agents, but I think that does mean a lot with them also putting the 5th-year option on J.C. Horn. You do have Dan Jackson. I think he may compete with Dan Jackson. Not quite sure, but if we do not bring in Stephon Gilmore, our starting corners will be J.C. Horn and Dan Jackson. I do want to see Shi Smith-Wade get opportunity to play outside corner, but I do think one thing that actually helps is he is a corner that has a knack for the ball, and he will come and wrap up. One thing that he does have to do is when he's diving for tackles, he misses a lot. So with me saying that, he does, try to do the trip with the arm, but when he does lock in and has his feet in the ground and wants to go tackle, he's great with that. Closes out pass catchers hastily to stifle yards after the catch, meaning that he's close to the hip as well, man. So for this one, I'll give it about a C. Mid right now, really have to see where we use him at the nickel, or do we use him as a boundary corner, outside corner. But, I mean, we did get a corner. We did need that position to be addressed. So, right now, that is our second defensive draftee that we brought in right behind Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. So, let's continue. We got our big Hob Molly. Shout out to Dave Gettleman that used that term, where we brought in Jaden Crumedy out of Mississippi State. This is a massive human being standing at 6'4", 301 pounds. If you look at it, I know a lot of people are talking about how he was able to hit Ike Ekwonu and Zavala looked stupid in his first highlight. But when I say he has a knack for the ball and is in this, and he disturbs offensive linemen and is very disruptive. He had 35 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 2 PBUs. Yes, he may not be able to actually get a sack, but he can take on a mean double team. And I love how nasty his game is. Maintains proper pad level and features jolting knockback power, meaning that he can knock a offensive lineman on his butt quickly. To go along with Ashawn Robinson, Derrick Brown, I really think Chau was on alert. Yes, Chau is the smallest defensive lineman that we have out right now, and I'm really hoping that somebody can take that job. If Chau comes in, he may play out of position. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. But when you have somebody like Crumedy coming in at 6'4", 301 pounds, that's a space eater that can take on a double team. And we know Derrick Brown has been taking on double teams because he is a freak of nature, a top 3 D tackle in the league right now. One thing he does have to work on, he needs to develop his hands to better control the blocks, meaning that he has to get off the block, do a swim move where you're not just standing there and you can't get off for that particular sack. But where he does lack in sacks, he does provide pressure. And again, you're playing in the league. You're not the only superstar on a line. You have other NFL talent to go along with you where you can provide a double team. So I'm hoping that he does become a rotational piece to give Derrick Brown and Ashawn Robinson a break. We do still have Thurman as well. So this pick right here, I'll give it a B-. I understand where people are saying, hey, we didn't get a center yet, but I'm looking at the need where I knew Carolina needed an interior D lineman, and they got their future interior D lineman to go along with the acquisitions that we brought in during the offseason, but also to help alongside Derrick Brown. And to close out the draft in round 7, pick 240, we got Michael Barrett out of Michigan. I think this is Dan Morgan's linebacker that is not appreciative and not appreciated by analysts. He stands at 5'11", 233, very undersized for a linebacker, but he was a captain at Michigan. If you look at his tape, he comes off the tape. He is attacking. I'm not going to use bulldog, but he's a dog. He's a junkyard dog. And I think with him being undersized, he has that passion with it to go and show that he can still be who people think he's not. Brings physical demeanor as an open field player. Again, like I said, he's a junkyard dog, has a knack for the ball. If you look at when he's coming off a blitz or coming around a corner, he has anticipations of hurting you. And he has intent to hurt you and bring force. One thing that he does have to work on, again, he's not your average size linebacker, so he may not play middle linebacker. So he may have to understand with his size, he has to utilize the opportunity where he can get his nose dirty when it comes to him actually playing. Yes, Shaq is up in age. Yes, we brought in Josey Jewell. I think Josey Jewell is going to surprise a lot of Panther fans going into his first year wearing that black and blue. But overall with the linebacker, I'll give it a C+. I did think we should have got a center right here. You did have a couple of options here to get a center, but I understand with the post-draft content with Dan Morgan and Dave Canal said they have Brady Christensen now playing backup center behind Austin Corbett. It is what it is. Overall, I'll give us a B for this draft, man. Dan Morgan and Dave Canales did a decent job with addressing the needs. You went and got your wide receiver that you were very high on. You went and got a running back of the future for this offense. You went and got a linebacker to possibly replace one of the key stones in your defense. Then you got a tight end of the future that was basically the second-rate tight end out of all the tight ends in this draft. Then you get a nickel corner or whichever position you want to play in the cornerback room. You get a space eater in Crumedy. Then you go get a bulldog in Michael Barrett out of Michigan. I really think Dan Morgan and Dave Canales could have not did much better. I understand we all had our personal preference. I had a lot of players that I wanted Carolina to draft. They only drafted Xavier Legette that I wanted in Jonathan Brooks. Outside of that, I didn't hit on a lot of picks myself. But I love the draft. I think we addressed a lot on the offense that needed to help Bryce Young. The defense wasn't a problem. There's no more excuses like the title says. There's no more excuses for the Carolina Panthers. It is basically show better, showing that you did last year. The division's always open. We're not looking to win the NFC and be the number 1 seed, but the division is always open. So tell me what you guys think. What grade would you give each prospect? What grade would you give Dan Morgan for his first draft? I definitely think it's time for football now. I know minicamp is right around the corner for rookies. Then there's mandatory minicamp. Then we're off to Charlotte for training camp. So I cannot wait. Definitely, again, if you stay long here for the whole video, make sure you leave a comment for us. Make sure you hit that like button for us. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We have definitely a lot of content coming out for the offseason. As we always say here, what's up, Doug? One love, stay safe. Peace.